bigger than them. We are here, really just here to make sure that we introduce the subjects and the different departments more than anything else. Maybe let's quickly go around each of us to say a little bit about yourself and the discipline you represent. Who would like to go first? Maybe I will arrow. Donna, would you like to go first for history?
Yes. Okay, yes, I'll go first. Thanks, Loy. I'm Donna Brunero, and I'm representing the Department of History. So you can see from my background, I'm a maritime historian. I work on British port cities of Asia, piracy. So these are some of the things I'm interested in. But thinking about history, we really look at how we understand the past, how understanding the past helps you have a better understanding of the present and even looking towards the future. And just thinking about history as a field which helps us as individuals and societies to understand why societies are the way that they are. I'll leave it at that point.
Whoa, there's a lot more succinct.
I don't know if that was what I was meant to do, but I think I've sort of really hopefully captured part of the spirit of history.
Fantastic. Susan, would you like to go next? Yeah.
I'm Dr. Susan Ang. I'm from the Department of English Language and Literature, here together with two of my colleagues from that same department, Prof. Leslie Lee and Prof. Robin Loon, who you will be hearing later on. I joined ELL in 1993. That's almost 30 years ago now. So I'm just about to collect my long service award in the near future. I was trained in SCGS, Hwa Chong, and Cambridge, and I specialize in a variety of things, but generally at the moment, things like modern poetry, science fiction, detective fiction, and things like that. So what can I say about my discipline that which will probably not be as succinct as Dr. Brunero's, but nonetheless, in literature, what we do is that we learn about sensitivity to language and sophisticated communication skills, which are developed through prolonged engagement with literary text and criticism. We basically impart to you as the student the critical ability and theories necessary to engage with a wide range of cultural texts, such as film, various types of written discourse, advertising, and media. We give you 3 or 4 basic kinds of skills, one of which is reading skills. And here we are going to teach you to read not just text, but also people, things, images, pictures, world, films and that kind of thing. And here I could just sort of say that one of my colleagues once sort of made the point very clearly when he sort of said to everybody in the lecture theatre, he said, look around you, look at the people next to you whom you've only just met. Without your knowing it, you've already started reading those people. You've already made certain assumptions about them based on the kinds of clothes they're wearing, the kinds of bags they brought in, the way that they're behaving in the lecture theatre. So all that constitutes a kind of analysis and reading, and that's the kind of thing that we alert you to. We also teach you writing skills, how to make words count, how to be effective in your writing. People skills, I mean, after all, literature is all about people, their societies, the world they live in, their inner lives, outer lives, and most of all, thinking skills, right? So here, so there's a kind of a challenge that we will invite you to mount towards conventional thinking or learning how to dismantle questionable structures of thought. So that hopefully sort of sums up the kind of 4 main angles that we have in EN.
Thanks so much, Susan. Let's have our next 2 colleagues also from the English Literature Department, because it's a big department with different parts to it. Who wants to go first? Robin, you want to go first, or Leslie, you want to go first? Leslie, yeah, Leslie, you want to go first? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm Leslie Lee. I'm with the English Language and Linguistics program, and I'm just going to shorten that to linguistics. So what we offer is an education in linguistics, right? And everybody will be like, what is linguistics? I've never heard that term before. Simply put, it's simply the study of human language, right? We're interested in any aspect of human language. And so we're not exclusively interested in English, right? But really any kind of human language, right? So the program covers a wide variety of qualitative and quantitative approaches. And we address topics such as what are the sound systems and grammars of different human languages like, right? How does language convey meaning, right? What kind of variation and change do we see in language over time? What's the function of language in society, right? Multilingualism, right? In a society like Singapore. We also deal with language and cognition, right? So how does the mind process language, right? How is language used in the media? And how does language represent different ideologies? We also have people working on language endangerment and revitalization. So endangered languages like Baba Malay in Singapore, as well as other languages in Singapore. Right. So while some of our modules, some of our classes focus on the unique properties of English, and I'm not just talking about standard English, but English as it's used around the world, right? But there are many, many others which are just simply interested in general patterns that shape each and every language. So our goal is not to turn you into a walking reference of a walking reference grammar of English, right? And unlike the English language and linguistics subject at A levels, right, we don't focus exclusively on the English language.
Robin?
Hello, everyone. My name is Loon, and I am from the newly minted Theatre and Performance Studies program. We used to be Theatre Studies, and we're now Theatre and Performance Studies, but I'm still going to call us Theatre Studies. So let me just tell you what Theatre Studies is not. Theatre Studies is not an acting school. Theatre Studies is not a film school. And we train students to be graduates and to specialize in theatre studies and not theatre arts. Mm-hmm. So theatre arts, you know, is for the training of it. We do training of acting, but it's slightly different because we looked at it with a larger point of view, the point of view of the humanities. And I was thinking about this panel last night before we came in, and I found that I kind of realized, and I should have done this a long time ago, that philosophy, history, English language, linguistics, English literature, for which I was, my first 2 degrees were in, we are all interested in the use of language. We're interested in narratives, and we're interested in text, right? We're interested, and you might think, oh my God, that's just all so theoretical, but that is what is driving the world today. How language is used, how narratives is used. You are being manipulated is the wrong word. You are being ushered by narratives that you don't even know. There are certain things, and certain things that you don't know have become text or have been textualized in such a way. So where does theatre studies come in? Theatre studies is about that performing and the ability to perform that text. And we understand how that is important, because you can have the text, you can have the dialogue, and nobody's there to say it. And how you say it, and more importantly, one of the things I realized that theatre studies is really useful for is actually the notion of the audience. Somebody's watching. Who are you performing to? How are you going to persuade them? How are you going to bring them to your side? Because theatre is about getting you to understand and connect with you, and maybe also exerting some kind of influence to what you think. So yeah, I think the humanities is really about how language is used, texts, narratives. And I think that's really, really important, especially now in 2022, where there's so much text flying left, right, and center. And we need to equip students with the ability to handle it and also understand it, and also offer a critical distance to step back and say, wait a minute. Okay, I'm going to leave it back to Associate Professor Loy, who has already been given a question on a Q&A. What are the job prospects for a philosophy grad? Just off the bat, Loy, they're asking you, can make money or not, Loy?
And one of my students makes a lot more money than I do.
Many of my students make a lot more money than I do. Okay. Yeah. Yes, Loy, go.
Yeah. So I'm Associate Prof. Loy from Philosophy Department. I've been teaching here for quite a long time. Not exactly as long as Susan, but long enough, right? I really received 1 long service award already, in case you're wondering. So philosophy is also part of the humanities, and exactly like how Robin has put it so nicely, humanities, a lot of it is driven by this concern with how words are used, right? And here is another angle to what Robin is saying, right? Dr. Loon is saying, we're trying to sort of understand the world and understand ourselves and do better, right? Sometimes you need to engage quantitative methods. You need to count, you need to run analysis, you need to do regression. But sometimes it's not about that kind of stuff, because that stuff doesn't touch the particular subject matter, right? Sometimes it's about qualitative information that can only be conveyed in words. Or put it the other way, where the conveying in the words really is the big driver, right? So humanities is a big, the different subjects in humanities attend to slightly different dimensions of this larger domain, right, in our attempt to understand the human condition, right? So what about philosophy? Philosophy is a study of some of these fundamental questions, that puzzled humanity for a very long time, questions at the heart of all thinking about the human condition. I'm give you some examples, right? Things like, do moral and wrong really exist? If morality really exists, why should I in particular be moral? What is art? Can it even be demarcated from non-art? Does knowledge exist? What are these conditions? What is the just society or the good society? Does God exist, right? Now, these are all abstract questions, but here's something very interesting about them. They have a very strange connection with our everyday life. Okay, they only look strange because we're abstracting them to discuss them in isolation, in themselves, and to apply as much critical thinking as we can onto them. But guess what? We take answers to these questions for granted all the time when we speak, when we live, when we do things, right? We make choices throughout our lives. We want to make good choices. We want to be able to hold our heads high and look ourselves in the mirror and say that we are not setting aside our moral duties. But underneath all these choices that we already do make and the beliefs that we have that drive our life decisions are assumptions about, well, whether morality exists, assumptions about the good society, assumptions about justice, even assumptions about knowledge, right? So if you think of it this way, then what philosophy is really doing is to force us to attend to those foundations and assumptions more critically, right? In a sense, just like all the rest from different angles, right? It really is a major for the curious and the adventurous. It's really about critical thinking skills to the max. It's like going to the gym to work out, except with your mind. No, it's not a body's kind of workout. And being precise and sharp in your thinking, right? Now, this is a close-knit, small cohort. So we normally, before the pandemic, we normally get to have a party for all our students every year. But hopefully, please, the pandemic goes away, we can do that once again. Where do our graduates go? They actually range from people in the corporate sector. One of my students joined Accenture soon after she graduated. Another one founded a tech startup, sold it to the New York Stock Exchange, and she is much richer than I am. Another one is a headhunter for a life science company. Another one used to be a director of a HR at Grab. They're entrepreneurs, people who are in the food space, in tech space. They're film directors and producers, people in the public sector, in the ministries, people in education, people in research. So in a short, everywhere where sharp, careful thinking is valued, our people are there. And to put it more generally, everywhere where the ability to think carefully with words is valued, humanities people are there. Okay. Am I right? That's right, right? The rest of us? Yeah.
Can I add in? I would just say it's the humanities, when you think about it, is quite often the analytical thinking skills, being able to evaluate different sources. And we do this in history, but we do it across all of our respective areas. Being able to evaluate sources, being able to analyze the arguments that are being put forth and the type of evidence that's being used. I think these are skill sets that are very transferable, actually, if you think about it beyond academic life.
Yeah, so that's why someone asked, why is philosophy not in social science? I'll also answer this in a more general way. Why are all these subjects not in social science? Because if you're doing social science, you better be ready to do it in numbers and experiment, because otherwise there's no science. Okay. So to the extent that you're dealing with the critical thinking with words rather than critical thinking with numbers and quantity, you're on humanities side. Okay. Okay, let's take a bunch of questions. There are questions that are coming in, but we also have some others that were collected beforehand. Maybe I can ask each of us to quickly say something about how our subject differ from what people actually study in the JC, especially if there's a counterpart. Donna, you should say something about that.
Yes, I think I should. Quite often, if one of the misconceptions, I think, with history or common misunderstanding is that you're just really memorizing a lot of content. Also, quite often there's a conception that you're really just looking at the study of the big men of history and big events, but increasingly history is about everyday life, about regular people's lived experiences and about their perspectives of the past. So history as a discipline has transformed really dramatically. If you studied history in a JC, some approaches will seem similar, but what we do with our department is basically encouraging you to expand your horizons in terms of the types of scholarship that you will be immersed in, and we place a lot of emphasis on what we call the craft of the historian. So by that, I mean, you develop your research skills, your reading and writing skills. So it's not just about content, but developing an appreciation of how historical thought has changed over time and how being a historian has changed even in the last 50 or 60 years.
Yeah, very good. Susan, what about you? What about, any of thoughts about this, especially because after all, literature is a pre-U subject. Yeah.
Can I link that to another question which also tends to hit us quite often, which is students who sort of ask, can I do literature if I've never done it before, which is the other side of the kind of question that you've just asked. And in fact, I would sort of say yes, and let me be first reassuring to all of those who haven't done it before and who are thinking about it. And then I'll come back to the question that Loy specifically asked, which is what links JC Lit to University Lit. So the reason why people who haven't done Lit before don't need to worry is precisely because I think even though I would sort of say that what NUS Lit does is to go wider, deeper, larger, more sophisticated than what you're doing at JC level, meaning that there are more choice. We have more, different options. So it's not just one kind of literature, for example, Victorian literature, but you can do Singapore literature, you can do science fiction, you can do critical thinking, you can do world literature. I mean, there's a huge, much more choice that's available. In that sense, you can go wider and larger, but they'll also be sort of training you up towards things like a greater kind of critical sophistication or how to be a better kind of reader using a much more sophisticated tools than at JC. But the reason why a non-lit student doesn't need to worry about that, or somebody who hasn't done this at A-level doesn't need to worry about it, is precisely because A-level actually tends to sort of like focus you on very specific kinds of goals and do it in very specific kinds of ways, which sometimes constitute, in fact, what I would call a bad habit at university. It's a kind of limited way of thinking. And in fact, in the first year and second year, I'm generally spending my time undoing lots of bad habits, like sort of teaching students don't use the word diction, or please could you sort of like not talk about the reader comes across this and therefore starts breathing very hard at this point. This is the kind of thing we don't want to hear in university. Now, a person who hasn't done Lit before has none of the kinds of bad habits that you in fact have to undo. So in fact, you might even be one step further ahead than people who have to undo all the kinds of bad habits. And there was 1 year, as a matter of fact, where I had 3 science students all joining Lit for the first time and all anxious. And it turned out that in that academic year, when they finally hit 4th year, they in fact were the top students of that cohort, all with first class. And one of them now who's earning a lot more than any of us are earning by being one of those major bankers with DBS, etc., which partly answers another question you might ask later, which is what can you do after you leave EN? But we'll come back to that in due course.
Robin and Leslie, I think the same applies to you guys as well. Your disciplines as well. We don't need to worry about what they study in JC, and likewise Donna, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, don't have to worry about it at all. In fact, actually, like Susan, I spend a lot of time helping students unlearn what they've learned, because what they've learned is to pass a certain exam.
Yes.
Right? Let's just put it this way. Leslie and I feel very strongly about this. Education is not about passing an exam.
Oh.
And the A-level syllabus is about passing the A-level exam. So everything pedagogically, educationally is geared towards that, to get a qualification, right? To get credentials in order to move on, right? So, which is why Leslie and I, and I'm sure everybody here, we just really think that it should go beyond that. And when you come to NUS and we do any of our disciplines, right, we're not saying that there are no exams. It's not possible, right? It is one form of assessment that we use in the university. But as Prof. Loy will tell you, we have been diversifying using so many different ways to help you tell us how much you've learned, rather than tell us how well you can pass an exam, right? So we are really committed to education. It's like, come to the university for the university experience, you know. Are you here to get qualifications, or are you here to get an education? You ask yourself that. If you're here to get an education, park yourself with us. We're really about that. So again, we must distinguish between what was required of a student in Singapore at the A level, right? And if you've done very well there, good for you, well done, welcome. Because if you didn't do good there, you wouldn't get here. But now you're here, acclimatize. It's a different game. It's a completely different game. And what you think you may have an advantage might work against you. And most of my students, the ones who go very well, like Susan, they have no theater experience, but because they have no theater experience, they are super formal. They will just do everything. They will just cover everything because they don't know what they don't know. So they want to know everything. They're hungry. They want to get into that. Whereas, some of the people who have prior experience, not say I want to say, but tend to be a little bit complacent because, oh yeah, I studied this in A-level, same lah. No need to read. Right? So I think that is where I need to tell anybody coming into the humanities, it's a completely different game. It's a little bit scary, but you know what? All 5 of us will tell you it's super fun. It's really fun if you just be open to it and not just say, yeah, why is it difficult? No, it's not. We are not here to trap you. We're here to kind of get you into it. And then after that, you just have to enjoy yourself, take whatever you want out of it, right?
Leslie, linguistics is offered in the JCs nowadays, right?
It is. So they offer it as English language and linguistics. And I actually have sat on the curriculum review committee for the A-level subject. And having done that, I can definitely tell you that, our approaches are completely different. The things that you learn are completely different. The students who do well in our program tend not to have taken the ELL subject at A-levels, right? So one thing for sure, of course, is that, the ELL subject in A-levels just focuses exclusively on English. And like I said just now, that's not what we do. And like what Susan and Robin said just now, right? There's a lot of unlearning that they have to do, right? And they fall into this trap of, I know what I need to know, right? And I'm just going to focus exclusively on that, right? As opposed to, the students that really thrive in a university environment are those who are open to asking new questions, to thinking in new ways, right? And these are the students that will really benefit from an education from any of these disciplines.
Yeah, but just to be clear, if you did study these things in the JC, don't worry, okay, you'll be fine too, right? Just don't come here with the wrong mindset. Oh, been there, done that. I don't need to do this again, right? So if you are really interested in history in the JC and you want to do history here, for instance, that's great. Just make sure that you don't fall into those traps. Donna, you were going to say something. Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, I was going to say exactly that. It's often thinking that you can just fall back on practically your JC notes and it'll be fine. But it tends to be a little more formulaic in terms of the way that you would write, for instance. And we do like to complicate your thinking and to show history would be tremendously dull if it's only written the one way by one person and then it's ticked off in a box and everyone says that's now covered. Then we move to another topic, right? There are many different ways to look at a particular topic, and that's what we like to do in terms of getting you to unpack the whole idea of perspective and why that's important. And perhaps that's where it would build on what you've done in JC, and allow you to sort of really extend beyond.
So there are a bunch of questions about how the philosophy program here compares with the NTU one. I'm going to generalize it. Okay, why come to NUS, CHS, FESS to study the humanities as opposed to some other university? Because you can get humanities in NTU, you can get some of it in SMU and elsewhere too. Here's the thing, right? If you're thinking purely in terms of the content, I will be quite shocked if somehow the NTU folks, my friends there, don't teach you the same things that we teach you. I think there will be a scandal because there are such things as industry standards, okay? However, this doesn't mean that there isn't a choice, because what you want to do is to think to yourself, do I want to come to NUS or do I want to go to NTU or SMU or some other place? Now, that is a more important choice. In terms of course offering and content, all of us have international PhDs and all that. How different can we be, right? Many of those people are our friends too, okay? You're going to learn not very different things from a certain point of view. But nonetheless, if you want to go to school in town, then I'm sorry, we are in Clementi, can't help you there, right? If you want to join a large research university like NUS, where there are like entire rows of people with various specializations just in one subject, like history, for instance, then you got to come to us. You can't go to a small place. So these things add up in a way that you may not expect, okay? Just to be clear about it, right? So I would actually say that among the humanities and social science offerings in Singapore, we are the oldest, so you got to give it to us. We have the most experience. We have the most weight when it comes to some of these things. Susan, you want to add something to that? I don't know, or maybe Robin, yeah.
Nothing more to add except that I have to tell everyone that it's really the institution NUS, okay, ranking notwithstanding, right? I am one very proud member of the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences because in our faculty, we have done a lot. Our faculty has hands down top educators left, right, and center. Everybody in this panel has won at least 2 teaching awards, at least, right? Everybody here. Professor Lloyd, Dr. Susan Ang, they are Professor Lloyd used to be a gatekeeper for our teaching excellence. Susan Ang is that right now. You are coming here and you are going to get a very specific, unique experience. It's like, do you prefer hamburger joint A versus hamburger joint B? They serve primarily the same thing. A French fry is a French fry, but it really is about what you are looking for. So I think the universities here qualitatively, right? In terms of the content, they offer the same thing, but really the FASS experience is so unique. The ways that, my colleague Leslie Lee during the pandemic time found different ways to engage the students online. We are very creative and inventive educators. So I'm just going to toot our own horn to say that you come here for a specific, the FASS experience, that education experience. And that's really something that you will take with you, because we don't just transfer knowledge to you. We teach you how to think, and we teach you, more importantly, and I hope I speak for, we teach you how to continue learning, right? Yeah. Learning doesn't stop. So we give you the tools that at certain point you have to adapt them to learn things, right? Because right now, we are no longer interested in teaching per se. We are all about learning. We're all about getting students to learn. We learn too as we continue, right? So I saw something in the Q&A from Anthea, and Anthea Lee, who talked about theatre performance studies recommended O and A-level certificates that might help in the application. I'm afraid all you need to do is to get accepted into CHS, and you are welcome to join theatre and performance studies. That's all. Yeah. That's all you need to do. Come in, get in through the CHS, come do the 1101, where you will meet yours truly. And then, and then the rest of the time, it's for you to pick up. So really no specialist certificate is going to give you any kind of advantage. So Anthea, I hope to see you soon.
Yeah. Someone asked, is taking philosophy as a minor, would it complement, say, some of them, primary major, even science majors? The answer is yes. In fact, it's not just philosophy, by the way. Yeah. So just the other day, I met a chemistry first major, theater second major even. Not even just a minor, but second major, right? Okay. We have graduated double degree, double major, physics, philosophy people all the time, right? It's like a small steady stream of them. I met life sciences and history people. I've met psychology and literature people. I've met even computing and philosophy people. I've met those. So, and definitely, linguistics and literature are also in the running to pair up with something else that is not even from CHS, for instance, right? Let alone just science. I would say that it's more important for you to pursue what you are interested in. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And I think just something that my colleagues have been talking about tangentially, is that I think you have to bear in mind that you're not just coming to university to study literature or to study theatre or to study philosophy, right? That's just one of the things that you'll be doing out of many, many things, right? And actually that's one of the whole idea of CHS, right? Is that you don't just study what you choose to major. And so you have to think about the whole ecosystem, right? And what's the environment that suits you best? And I think at NUS, FASS, CHS, we provide a very good ecosystem that supports that.
Yeah. Yeah. What is the percentage of students in humanities who go on to pursue graduate studies? Do you all know? I mean, I know the ones who I taught that went on to graduate school, but it's not actually majority, right? Because many of them actually, okay, so there is a group that want to do a master's because they still want to do it. They still want to do more research and all that. But then there are many others. And then of that group, even smaller proportion will go on to do their PhDs. My advice will be, do that only if that is what you're really aiming for. It's not the kind of stuff that you can sort of plan in advance. Actually, typically, a young person who is not even in university yet, I don't think you're in the running to even worry about it yet, actually. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know whether, for instance, Donna, do you have the same experience?
I think I would say it's very much the same thing. Quite often it will be former students that will get in touch with me a couple of years into their working lives and then say, hey, I've always thought I'd go back and do a master's. What do you think? And then they'll be talking about ideas rather than fresh graduates. So I would say the same thing. If you're just starting out with your university life, be open to the idea, but perhaps there are so many possibilities.
Loy, a question came up just now about jobs, which we, of course, would. And I sort of said I would take that live. Can I do that now, please?
Please do that. Please do it.
Yeah. Somebody asked just now what kind of jobs are available to people who do English Lit, which is, I suppose, a very good kind of question. And here I'll sort of give you a practical answer, but I'll also give you a sort of slightly sideways way of thinking about that sort of question. So the practical answers to that are plenty of things: civil service, teaching, which is what half of you are probably hoping not to hear. Anything which involves PR and personal skills, I think tends to be there. NAC, NLB, we have tons of people in there: publishing, reporting, media core. But we've also got sort of people in unexpected areas. One of my more recently graduated students, Alison, is now our first secretary, to the embassy, to our Singapore embassy in Switzerland. We had Carol Leishman, who was in fact head of the legal services at Microsoft. I had two students from the same year who then both went off and became lawyers afterwards, not because they decided English Lit was the wrong thing for them, but because they decided that the skill sets involved could jolly well be used in law very productively, and both of them in fact have done very well with that. So in fact, the world is your oyster, precisely because we are not teaching very specific skills that only very specifically get used to produce new lit academics or new lit teachers, but something that in fact transferable skill sets that in fact you can use within a whole range of possibilities. So where I said I was going to go sideways is I sometimes feel that while it's understandable that you're asking the question, and very often it's your parents asking the question through you rather than you yourself asking the question about jobs, what I think you ought to think about is the fact that, number one, when you come in now, you're going to be, you are in fact different from what you are going to be in 3 or 4 years' time when you graduate. And therefore, the person that you are now is going to be different from the person you are then. And you possibly will have changed in a way that doesn't mean you want to do the same things, or that you will have different ideas about where you want to go in life. And therefore, thinking about a job even before you've entered university is a bit strange, because that 3 or 4 years is going to change you. And it's not just you that will have changed. The world will have changed as well. As our president has sort of said, right? President of the university has sort of said, we need to future-proof our students precisely because at the moment we are teaching them things that are relevant to the now, but now is not when they're joining the working world. But the world that's coming will have different kinds of needs, different kinds of skills or disciplines, different kinds of ways of looking at things. And if you don't believe me, just think about the last 2 years. Who would have thought 2 years ago that we would be doing things the way we are now? That we'll be using Zoom for a lot of teaching, or having to develop all sorts of IT skills that we didn't have before. So if in 2 years people who have done things traditionally can change, think about what will happen in 4 years. And therefore, to some extent, I would sort of say, put that question on hold a little bit. Come in and enjoy and find out what it is that you are really interested in and what you could develop an interest in, and then ask the question of your lecturers again in the year before you graduate, when you then need to make many more concrete plans. So I hope that whoever asked me the question feels that that's a satisfactory answer.
At this point, can I hijack what Susan just said? This thing about keeping an open mind, and I think you really should bear that in mind. I was a student at NUS at FASS long ago, right? And when I entered NUS FASS, I was determined to major in econs, right? And I took econs in my first semester. I also happened to take linguistics in my first semester, and I simply fell in love with it. And I changed my mind. And that has changed my life dramatically, right? Look at where I am now. So this is something that you probably want to keep in mind. Your interests, what you think you like, right, might change, right? You don't know what you like actually unless you've tried things out. And I also there was also a question for me just now about job prospects in linguistics, and I think this applies for all of the subjects here, right? Like most other majors in CHS, right? All of the majors here are non-vocational, right? We don't train you for a specific occupation, right? This is not an engineering degree, it's not a law degree, right? Rather, we aim to help you develop transferable skills, right? That are going to prepare you for diverse employment opportunities, the kind that Susan just talked about, right? And you think about linguistics and you think, oh, these people just look at language, right? Well, our graduates have gone into careers that seem quite unrelated, but actually, I mean, what part of life does not involve language, right? Like banking, finance, consultancy, entrepreneurship, human resources, business management. You know, you say we have it, right? So don't pigeonhole yourself, right? By that discipline.
Yeah, this is actually very important.
Yeah. I want to add on to something about that, because I think a lot of the conversation today will be about job prospects. And I want to just repeat what Susan said. Don't think about your life 4 years from now. Think about your life 6 months from now, right? So then what is happening in the next 4 years is locked in. You won't be able to. So not only are we non-vocational, I want to also say that do a bit of a sweep of job ads out there right now. They are less particular about what majors you have. They are particular, they'll always tell you a good honors degree, a good degree, and then they will list down all these qualities that they're looking for. There are very few ads that says, I'm looking for associate major, I'm looking for a poli-sci major. No job description will do that. No, it's true. Go to LinkedIn, go to any of the job market ads. They will tell you a good degree, possibly in this or that, but specifically, but then they will list a good degree in this or its equivalent. It's up to you to work, to again, position yourself as an equivalent. And then they will list all the qualities they're looking for. And invariably, it will be language skills, communication skills, reading skills, writing skills, right? Again, everything that Leslie is talking about. But we don't teach writing, we don't teach that, but all these are the things that is going to end you a job. And that job could be a springboard to something else, right? Just really just getting into the door. That's one. Second thing I want to tell you, and I always say this, is that you want to get a good degree, right? So the job says a good degree in this. How do you get a good degree? You do well. Simple. How do you do well? You got to have interests, right? You got to have aptitude, and you got to have hard work. If you have all three, you're usually set. 2 out of 3, still okay. 1 out of 3, a struggle. If you have none, please don't do this subject. If I have no aptitude in subject A, I won't be motivated to do it, and I am just not. Then you end up with a certificate or a diploma cert. Who is going to hire you? A diploma cert full of C's and D's, or a certificate full of A's, right? So you want to get that A, right? You want to get that diploma that's full of A's, not one with CD, and nobody really look at what is this subject that you get in. They don't really care. They just look at that grade. You ace that role with full of A's and A pluses, then the person will say it's impressive. And the only way to do that is to go with what you're interested in. And then I saw a question there. Can you do literature by putting in a heart? Well, yes, of course you can, right? Absolutely. The intrinsic motivation for you to do well will spur you to do things. So you got to have confidence with yourself. Don't let the market dictate you, because the market will change, right? And the market often changes.
Yeah.
Can I hijack that question back again myself, Roy? Merely to read something that Justin sent to me just now when I asked him that kind of question, right? And here he's in fact making a better sales pitch for EN than I myself could. So this is the so what I'm reading in the next minute or so will be Justin. So what he said, maybe what EN, which is short in our department for English literature, maybe EN kids are intellectual entrepreneurs, and he heightens the EN in entrepreneurs. And then he says, because the heart of being an entrepreneur is to be self-driven, adaptable, innovative, and that's what you need to sell ideas, products, beliefs. That's what you learn somehow when you keep writing literature essays. There's no harder sales pitch than doing an EN essay. So you are enterprising and engaged entrepreneur. So he heightens the EN, and the EN in enterprising, engaged, and entrepreneurs. And then he goes on to say, maybe the point here is that a part of what lit does is that it opens your mind to be adaptable, so you can plot such decisions for yourself, as opposed to always expecting there to be a fixed route to a job, because there won't be one. Yep. And then he sort of mentioned a student who said he was previously in architecture before, and then he switched from architecture to CNM, but then he left both for literature because he felt that the work in architecture and CNM was too vocationalized. They were giving him tunnel vision, and he wanted some freedom not to know yet what he wants to do with his life. So I suspect that many kids are like that. We are so conditioned by SG culture to think that we must know what we want to do with our lives, that that's what we want when it's not what we want. And then we choose econs or something else for this reason, and then we wonder why we feel trapped. And I think that's a really perceptive way of, in fact, answering the question that we've all been wondering.
Any wrong ideas?
Nothing wrong with econs.
Nothing wrong with econs.
No.
Nothing wrong with econs.
Nothing wrong with econs, but literature's better. You know?
Oh, there's no competition.
There's actually more fun. You know?
Yeah. Okay, we got to end soon already.
Okay.
I'm going to go around, everyone, one sentence, parting word of advice. Only one sentence. Who want to go first? Robin.
Just be open. I mean, we keep saying this. Come into CHS, approach everything we have offered for you with an open mind, and just try, right? You won't know whether you like it or not until you try. I think Leslie said that you have to try it. Then if you don't try it, you won't know, and then you won't know what you're missing. And after that, you know, okay, it's not worth it, my time anymore. But just really try and really enjoy the different ways that we have designed for you to really augment your learning. Yeah. And I think that's really something that you will get at FASS.
Yeah. Leslie.
I just have to reiterate what that Robin had just said, right? I mean, especially for CHS, take advantage of your access to both FASS and FOS modules, right? Don't place premature restrictions on what you think you want to do at NUS. Right, explore the different options available. I saw so many questions. How do I decide between X, Y, and Z? Well, try them out. Yeah. That's the only way you know. See how we introduce our subjects to you and what we have to offer, and decide for yourself what you're more interested in.
Yeah, great. Donna?
I would echo all of those comments and say, yeah, join us in an exploration of our disciplines, because we'll bring you beyond the classroom in many ways and allow you to see the way that your discipline or our disciplines actually connect to everyday life. So for instance, for history, you'll have a much better sense of why statues are being toppled into rivers, you know, legacies of empire, for instance. You begin to put connections that go beyond the classroom, and we do that right across our courses at FASS.
Great. Susan?
I would just like to say welcome to all of those who are going to join us, and that we hope you have a very good time with us. Enjoy your time when you're with us, because in fact, most of the time you're thinking about the future when you ought to be enjoying the now. I mean, I can't tell you how much I wish I were back in your position and just about to enter university for the first time, as opposed to soon coming up to the point where I shall leave and retire, and be out of NUS.
Yeah. If you are the kind of person, my parting word, if you are the kind of person who sits up late at night, thinking about the world, thinking about the human condition, thinking about what it means for us to do well as people, as society, you can't go to sleep, yeah, you got to get your fix. Come join us. Okay, all the best. I hope that everyone found this a little bit useful. And if there are some unanswered questions, we'll find a way to put them on an FAQ somewhere. Don't worry about it. Yeah. You can always contact us anytime you want to. All right, Minjin, back to you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Prof, for the engaging session today. And we'd like to thank you all for joining us today. We'll be running a poll just before we end. So if you should see it soon, yeah. So if you can help us by filling it out, letting us know how we can improve, and this will really help us greatly. So we'd like to extend it to all our attendees now. Yep, thank you. We'll still, yep. So I mean, just to let you know, there'll be a few more sessions upcoming. So if you have some time, attend the other sessions, listen to the other speakers, the panelists, and we would like to once again thank everyone for your time. Okay, let's give a little bit more time for the poll. And again, I think if you, apologies if we have not answered your question. If you do have any other questions, you can reach out to us at the following email at askchs@nus.edu.sg. Or if you have got any other information that you need about life in CHS or some of the information that you need, you can also visit chs@nus.edu.sg. Okay, so we'll just about end the poll. And again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for attending this session. And we hope to see you at the other sessions. All right. Thank you all.